one topic I wanted to talk about was the Constantinople, the long-awaited like hard fork that was scheduled to go live the other day didn't happen, and now it's delayed. And in a statement from the Ethereum core, I'm just reading this off CCN. From Ethereum core developers and the Ethereum security community said that they decided to postpone the hard fork after security researchers identified a potential vulnerability in one of the software upgrades. Security researchers like Chain Security and Trail of Bits ran and are still running analysis across the entire blockchain, did not find any cases of this vulnerability in the wild. However, there is still a non-zero risk that some contracts could be affected. So because of this, there could be some security risk with some of these smart contracts with the Constantinople upgrade. And apparently because of this, because the hard fork was delayed, this is why price dropped according to this article, which kind of makes sense. Even though it's a non-contentious hard fork, you're not going to get any free coins from this if you hold Ethereum. But yeah, let's start with Dan, I know you got to get off soon, but let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this hard fork, Ethereum hard fork, and the delay and potential minor risk, I guess you could say, to some of these smart contracts with the upgrade?
Yeah, I don't know much about the risk posed to miners, but I think that in anticipation of the update, there was a pretty good pump from Ethereum, and we moved back into almost mid-$100 range. And then with the news about the delay and the risk posed to miners, and then also I think it didn't directly correlate, but I think it did have some impact on people's sentiments toward Ethereum with the 51% hack on Ethereum Classic. I think that factored in too, and now we're seeing a correction back to the downside. And then, like I was saying earlier, the price went up and the volume decreased, and now we're just seeing that come to fruition back into the bear trend. So I think we're going to continue to see downside. If Ether can close the one day above 160 or $162, then we could see some upside. But otherwise, like, I'm just seeing downside from here.
Pete, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see how I don't really think it affected the price that much. Like the price of Bitcoin dropped, so did the price of ETH and everything else, right? I don't think it affected it that much, which I think is a good sign, because I was kind of worried that it was one of those like buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing.
Sure.
Like Ethereum literally doubled in price in the last month, right? So like I was expecting some sell-off, and I thought the news of the delay might push it down further than I thought, but it didn't. So I don't really know about what the risks are to the miners. From what I know about the fork, an upgrade to the network, and also they're slowly going to be switching from proof of work to proof of stake. And I guess that is just going to make it more centralized. But I don't think that's a bad thing for Ethereum in general. So I don't know, we'll see how it goes, because I don't know if it's actually set in stone that I think this is kind of like an experiment. They're going to try and move into proof of work, but that might not be the best form of action. So they might just stick with mining, instead of proof of stake, they might just stick with mining. So I don't know. I just guess we just got to see what happens. What do you guys think?
In terms of, go ahead. Yeah, so I like what Pete mentioned. Like, they're shifting; they're not just making the move to proof of work right away. And
Right.
From past reports, it was mentioned that the reason why they're doing that is because it's going to be experimental in a way that, as it progresses, they're going to realize if it's working or not. So, they're high on proof of work, on proof of stake, pardon me, but they don't want to give up proof of work right now, because if there is any issues with if it does centralizes it more than decentralizes, that's not what they want at all. So from, like I said, from past reports, they want to shift into proof of stake, but I mean, in my opinion, they kind of maybe pushed the announcement of the delay as much as they could in this current market condition. I don't think they wanted to come up and say we have to delay it, because they hired a firm to do some investigation for them and trying to find a loophole. And that's what caused them to say, okay, we're going to actually push it back a little bit. But the firm really came at the last second and said, oh, we just found the loophole and you have to push it away. I don't think so. I mean, for price, it could have been bad to just come up with the news that it's being delayed, especially with all the built up and the anticipation of this upcoming fork. Because I think you all mentioned it too. I mean, the price did go a lot higher. Ethereum did outperform the rest of the market, and I don't see any other reason than that fork itself. So now, I mean, you just come, you cut off its leg just one time and saying, oh well, it's not happening. I mean, I think I expected, and they expected as well, that the price might drop crazy. It hasn't. Good for them, and I don't think this was likely. But yeah, I think they're going to shift into it, see what happens from there.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Friday, because so Chain Security is the firm that found the problem.
Right.
And Ethereum is going to have another announcement on Friday, basically at their developer conference or call or whatever they do. And depends when they're going to push it to, right? I mean, this was supposed to be done in November, got pushed to January, and now it's going to get pushed again. And who knows what the date will be. I expect it to be another few months, at least, just because, you know, going from what they did last time from November to January. So I think you might see a little bit more price action happen when they decide that. And what Dan said earlier about Ethereum Classic being hacked and, you know, that 51%, I think that had played a role in it. But all these bad news, and the price held pretty strong, in my opinion, right? So that, I think that's pretty good to see.
Yeah,
Okay.
I always take like a tinfoil hat approach when it comes to all these kind of news articles and the way they're timed and stuff like that. So it's
Right.
in terms of price action. I mean, we ran up in anticipation for the fork. So it's we ran up close to 100%, and the fact that we're holding, there's so much room to hold that. Yeah, we'll see what happens on Friday. And in terms of price action, I think that there's a lot of room. So for downside.
Well, Ethereum has to do something about its scalability issues, right? I mean, it's trying to be an app store basically and host all these apps, and all these apps need scalability and people using the actual platforms that these guys build. So they need to do something about it. And I think the more they prolong it, the more people are going to look to other solutions, even Tron or, whatever else is out there, EOS, whatever else that is starting to solve those scalability issues. Because right now, I think the race is about who can get the most talent and who can have the most developers build on their platform. So if there's a guy on the sidelines waiting to, build a game and they want to use Ethereum, they don't want to wait forever and ever, right? So Ethereum needs to kind of step up when it comes to that.
Sure.
Kind of switching gears here. And it is, I think it will be crypto related eventually, or Bitcoin related eventually. You guys heard about what happened recently with the whole grassroots yellow vest movement in France?
Ooh.
So there was like a planned bank run, right, by some top people in the yellow vest movement. And it was supposed to start on Saturday, January 12th. And all of a sudden there was glitches in these ATMs. A bunch of these ATMs in France wasn't working. And this planned bank run is not supposed to happen in one day. It's supposed to happen in sequence of events. What are your guys' thoughts on this, and how, where do you guys see? Okay, so you guys are, some of you guys are in Toronto, Montreal, so you're more in tune with probably what's going on in France. It's such a French.
You can't compare the yellow vest in Canada to the yellow vest in France. It's not.
No. I'm not comparing. I'm just saying, like, in terms of what's going on in France. I didn't even know there was a yellow vest movement in Canada.
There is.
Oh, I didn't even know. What I'm saying is, like, in terms of like just a conversation of what's going on in France, I'm assuming because there's such a French influence in the eastern part of Canada that you guys are more in tune with the conversation that's going on in France. So what are your guys' thoughts on what's happening in France as of late, especially with this planned bank run and all of a sudden these glitches?
I freaking love it, man. I love what's going on over there. Like I resonate wholly with those guys, and just to see that they're actually doing something. I mean, look, France is a big country in the EU. It's one of the biggest, right? I think it's like second after Germany. So for them to completely just be fed up, and I don't know, I'm seeing videos of guys like jumping over railings and just start swinging at, police in riot gear, just straight bare swinging at police officers. I'm like, what's going on over there? But the whole planned run for, getting their money out, I think it correlates 100% with Bitcoin, right? I think maybe the people aren't aware of it yet enough, but I mean, it's exactly what Bitcoin is fighting against. The inflation, the fact that, money is being handed out that doesn't exist. The fact that every country in the EU owes every other country in the EU money, like it's a total shit show, and it's just good to see some people finally, start to do something about it. I think everyone's just fed up over there, and it's starting to show.
Yeah, it needs to spread around the world, I think.
Right now,
Go for it.
in the news, there's not much. I mean, here in Montreal, they show the yellow vests, but there's never a mention of why and like the foundation of why they do it. They just show like the ones that do put on the yellow vest to break into stores and get a bunch of stuff like that. So
Right.
maybe they're tainting a bad image on top of it. But I mean, to link it with Bitcoin and crypto and one thing, I like to say that they've understood the monetary system, the current monetary system, how it works. And that's similar to what Satoshi has seen in 2008, 2007, whenever he started thinking about Bitcoin. So there is a correlation there, and that's where it is. I mean, they're both, Satoshi's very first Genesis block in the Bitcoin was one where he pointed at the bankers and he's like, it's all your fault. The monetary system is flawed. There was a message towards that. Yeah. So that's the correlation I see between the French right now, because they say, hey, okay, well, we're, as Mem mentioned, we're the second biggest financial country in Europe, besides Germany, but we're paying high interest loans. We're being taxed on stuff that these other countries that are kind of falling apart are because of bad governance, right? You have Italy that's doing really bad. Spain has been doing really bad. Yeah. There was unfortunately the Greek fiasco in 2015, and now France sees that they're being kind of the one to always save them. Their people are paying higher taxes, and it's not fair.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the connection I do with them is they understand the monetary system, and kudos to them. It's not common knowledge.
Do you guys think they're going to follow the UK and exit, or if the UK exits? But do you think you're going to start seeing more countries now trying to exit the European Union and the EU?
Man, the euro's done, no? The euro's probably one of the major currency that's just going to fall, because right now you notice that it kind of did not work. I think is it 16 years the euro is 20 years?
I think so, yeah.
So
here's a question then. Sorry, go for it.
No, I agree with Nabil. The euro was a failed experiment. It took a long time to fail, but well, not really. It failed from a long time ago, but everyone's just holding on, thinking that things might get fixed. But
it's an ICO.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen with, like, is England going to exit? Are other countries going to follow, or are they just going to stay in and like go through the disaster together? I don't know.
Look, this is the longest in history that Europe countries haven't been at war with each other, right? That's the whole reason that European Union started. After World War II, everyone was like, yo, we really messed the countries up. We should probably sign some papers and like chill a little bit. And
I love how you put it. Sign some papers and chill, guys.
Yeah, that was the whole, that was the whole Versailles Treaty, right? So, I mean, after they did that, they were just, I guess, as people started to get along, trade started to open up, and they thought, you know what, if we're all on the same, monetary system, the same currency, then it's easier so that, you know, if you want to buy some steel from me and I could sell you some wood, then we don't have to think about the currency and like, you know, trading depending on that. And it works for a little bit. Let's like, you know, to be fair, there hasn't been any wars. So that's always a positive, but it's just greed took over as it usually does. And, you know, you saw inflation rates increase like crazy. And then poor governance, like Nabil mentioned, just took over. So, you know, countries don't want to pull other countries up, right? They're basically trying to hold on for themselves. Like no government is run efficiently. So France is trying to hold France together. Germany's really the only one doing well, it seems, right? Those guys have it figured out. They just have the math down, and every other country is struggling. And France is like, dude, we're trying to hold hold our sinking ship. We can't hold up Greece and Spain. So,
right.
I don't know. I think euro is going to be done in the next decade.
So let's just say when this inevitable collapse happens with the euro, where does the money go? Where does the wealth go? Is there a probability a lot of this capital could flow into the crypto market, especially Bitcoin? Like, is that the catalyst we're looking for to see Bitcoin eventually fulfill its destiny, I guess, in terms of price action? What are your guys' thoughts? What do you think, Chris?
I think.
I'll go for it.
Go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead, Chris.
No, it's just like I try to always keep a macro view of things, and like if the euro collapses and you have all these countries in a obviously terrible position, it's going to be chaos, man. I think people are going to be hunting for food and just survival, really. So I think in terms of elitist mentality, they probably would go to a decentralized safe haven, but most people are just going to be struggling to survive, I think, in that aspect. But I mean, to get to your point, I think, yeah, sure, it's a decentralized network where they keep their money safe. I think it's a no-brainer for anyone. You can start seeing it a little bit in like Venezuela. A lot of those people are leaving. I mean, obviously, whatever is left of their currency, they're going back to cryptocurrency just to hold with whatever's left. So man, I think it's going to be way worse than we could even imagine. Like, I really think it's going to be completely chaotic.
It's going to be global. It's not just going to be like Europe's the first ones to go. Like when the recession comes, it's Europe that's going to be hit first, but then America's going to follow. Like it's going to be a global catastrophe, like 2008, probably worse. And what's going to happen is the currencies, the USD, the euro, I think are going to lose a lot of value. And with whatever value people have left, they're going to look to put it somewhere. And a lot of these people aren't going to trust the banks anymore. And I think that some will go into Bitcoin. I think there's going to be another coin. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think the powers that be already know what's going to happen, and they want to shift the wealth somewhere. And I don't think they want it to go into Bitcoin. So I think there could be another coin that is going to be like a bank coin, right, or a government coin. And you're going to see the sheik flock into that, because at the end of the day, there's people that don't understand the system or just like comfortable within a system will just go to what they think is the safest thing, which will be the banks or the bank coin or the government coin. Like, bring us what you have left and we'll keep it safe. And the smart people will put their money into Bitcoin. But that's just my opinion. But I do think it is going to be a catastrophe. And like, people don't really realize that we didn't fix anything from the last crash. Like we broke our leg, cut our leg open, put a Band-Aid over it and carried on walking. Then the leg got infected and eventually we have to cut it off, right? Like that's exactly what happened with 2008. We haven't fixed the issues. We just put a bandage on it and carried on printing money and inflation and propping up the stock market. And next time it crashes, whenever that is going to happen, it's going to be a lot worse than the last one. So
Yeah.
I think what Chris said is right. There's going to be people just trying to survive. A lot of people are just going to try and survive. They're not going to be thinking about where to put what little money they have left. They're going to just need to provide for their family and try and survive.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's my thoughts. I think when that happens, when the euro collapses, I think for the time being, a lot of capital may flow into the US dollar. And I'd like to get your thoughts. This is just my theory, but I think it'll strengthen the US dollar for the time being.
Well, it depends if the US dollar goes down too. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, euro looks like it's going to be the first to go, but I mean, I'm thinking South America has already started, right? Argentinian, they use the peso. I don't know what it is, but the inflation last year was like 25%, right? So it devalued their money by 25%. So that's already started. Brazil is a big country when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Like any conference I go to, there's always a few Brazilians there that are just like out and about because they're already starting to understand what's happening. And look, man, not everyone is as brainwashed as we are in North America, right? Because most of these guys have already been fed up with their government. They've been fed up with what's going on. So they're already looking for alternatives. So I don't know, man. I hope that it gets to a point where Bitcoin starts to increase with it. I think you might be right, though. Like, I think it's going to move into US dollars as long as the US dollar is strong. But it's always moved into the US dollars, right? I mean, ever since they moved away and created the fiat currency, people haven't really been putting money into gold, right? It's always moved. If you want to keep cash, I mean, even my parents in Turkey would buy US dollars, right? Because no one wanted to keep the Turkish lira. Like, who's doing that, right? So you buy US dollars. It's always happened that way, but that's because there was no alternative except for gold. But now that there's Bitcoin, I mean, I just think about it like this. If you're 16 years old right now, right? You don't have any idea what the hell's going on. But by the time you're 26, 28, 10, 12 years from now, when all these things might be happening, you might be thinking, okay, I could keep my money in US dollars, or I can have this other currency that I could spend anywhere, anytime.
Right.
If the Lightning Network starts to work like it's supposed to, then you're going to start to see more kids that understand tech first. They're just going to want to use Bitcoin. So, I mean, the older generation, you know, our parents, our grandparents, if they're still around, they're going to want to, you know, US dollar has always been safe kind of thing. But the younger guys, like I'm telling my little cousin, buy Bitcoin. You know what I mean? I'm telling everyone, younger than me, buy Bitcoin, man. That's what it's going to be in the future.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Nabil, what are your thoughts?
Interesting. The points you guys bring up are really interesting. I went to a strategy session, I think it was last week here in Montreal. It's PopPerm, and we go over everything. We go over all these financial markets, et cetera. And we looked at the chart of a QE chart, quantitative easing, which basically is the Fed printing money.
Right.
And some people think the Bitcoin chart was kind of like parabolical, like the way it just increased. Man, I wish I had the chart right now because they have a Bloomberg terminal there, so they have access to more data. But I'll try to find it and maybe send it to you guys eventually. But that chart is insane. It makes no sense. I mean, the amount of money that has been printed, and plus it's physical. So a lot of it has been lost. There's so much money count that is lost. I mean, there were rumors about the Pentagon losing $20 trillion here, 8 trillion there.
Right.
So the amount of money printed and how it's been governed and managed is really, really bad. And right now, like we're seeing with stocks, that stocks might kind of fall off, and this might lead the economy to have like a recession, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of people are talking about this like stock bubble right now. And yeah, stocks are super inflated.
Yeah.
And as soon as you see that earnings don't match the price of the stock anymore, that's your first sign. Keep it very simple. Just look at that, right?
Yeah.
But besides like the stock bubble, for which, by the way, I truly believe that they're gonna try to engineer a soft landing. So basically, they're gonna keep injecting money into it because they don't want the economy to crash one time. They're gonna try to like smooth like
Slow
a
down.
soft landing, basically,
Sure.
to go back from there, because that's the economy is going. But I believe the same people that are strategizing for that soft landing might be the ones saying, well, maybe we should just try to shift to something else. That might be like to digital cryptocurrencies,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. Because I don't like the term cryptocurrencies. I like to call it crypto finance. You have Bitcoin that's going to act as a currency, but you have all these other tokens that are going to be basically digital commodities. You're going to have security
Right.
tokens, and all of that can kind of replace the whole monetary system and finance at the moment.
Right.
So
Right.
it's my opinion. That's an opinion. A lot of people that have analysis behind that. That's kind of coming, but followed by that is going to be the money bubble. Because if stocks are super inflated, it's because of all the money that's being printed and injected, stimulate the economy, greed, bad governance, et cetera. But at one point, man, it's going to be the money bubble. And some of the money bubble have been seen. Venezuela, like Ma'am mentioned, in Turkey, in Libya, and all these places. Those are good indicators, man. Look at those, because right now, if stocks fall, money goes into USD, some gold, yen, and Swiss franc, which are like the safe haven ones. But that's just lack of perspective, man. Look at Bitcoin. Look at the last 5 years, 10 years. Name me one asset that has outperformed Bitcoin.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Exactly.
None.
So,
Absolutely.
And these are big countries, right? These are like a lot of people live in these countries. A lot of people work really hard in these countries. Like they're immigrant countries, you know what I mean? These are hardworking people, but the government is just screwing them just because they don't know what to do, right? They really actually don't know that they're screwing themselves over as well as the rest of the country. And, you know, these are countries that democracy, you know, it's a facade. You see democracy at the forefront, but really behind closed doors, it's the furthest thing from it. So, you know, where can you attack these countries, these governments? It's the same when the DEA is attacking cartels, right? They go for the money. So the only place that you can attack the government is by creating your own sovereignty and being your own bank. And the only way to do that right now is Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Bitcoin, there was news that came out a few days ago from an economist, a Kremlin economist. I'm not going to say it's news from the Kremlin, but the news report said that this economist at the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration, which is a state-funded institution in Russia, apparently stated that Russia is going to be looking to buy as much as $10 billion in Bitcoin. Obviously, it's not going to happen in one shot. That would send the price to the moon. But what are your guys' thoughts on this? Is this just bullshit news just to try to prop up the price of Bitcoin?
I know what Pete thinks about it.
Russia's been using Bitcoin to get around the money laundering laws for years. They've been mining, and they're mining tons of Bitcoin. Like, I know people that have been there and seen the facilities they have out there. Like, Russia's in Bitcoin. Like, I mean, maybe they're planning to buy more, but you saw what Russia's doing. They're putting their money into other currencies.
They have a huge crypto community, kind of off topic, but not
do.
really. I was in Thailand last year.
Bro, there's some crazy Russian miners out.
These guys know the crypto.
Yeah. So my opinion on it is just, I don't know if I think it's a bit of fake news kind of thing. Like, Russia are in crypto. They are holding big amounts of it and they're mining massive amounts of Bitcoin. So when I see like things like that, I don't know if it's real or not, you know?
Yeah, Russia's big in crypto. I mean, it's another country that doesn't trust its government, right? I mean, I think at this point it's pretty simple math. You don't trust your government. You're looking for an alternative. Even
the government, though, the government are in Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, because they're trying to get around the sanctions that America. They don't like America.
They're laundering all their money and getting around these sanctions and tariffs using Bitcoin, and they have been for years and years and years. Like, people forget, like, the Bitcoin in the beginning, the majority of its use case was for illegal activities like money laundering. That hasn't changed. Like, yes, there's a lot of other people in the market now that are not laundering money. It's more of an investment now, and to use as for whatever. But there's still a big part of it that there's these countries like Russia that have to use it for certain things. So I think that Russia, the government, have a big amount and have a big part to play in Bitcoin. Personally, I have no proof of that, but I know there's the miners out there are mining massive amounts. I know the government have been doing their thing with Bitcoin because of the tariffs and sanctions. So
Yeah.
would you guys?
Yeah, they want to minimize the impact of U.S. sanctions that have hit Russia in the past year. So basically, they want it's the de-dollarization, I guess you would call it, where they want to move away from U.S. dollar reserves into Bitcoin. Let's talk to the traders. What are your guys' thoughts? Let's start with Nabil on this whole Russia news. You think it's
Well, as much as I like trading, I have a lot of I have some coins that I invested in. I look at long term. So my first reaction when I saw the news was, I hope they don't buy it over the counter, because I want my portfolio to go.
yeah. Right.
That was my first opinion.
Right.
But the coin, when it coincides with the price falling from 4,000, it's okay. There you go. That might be them. I don't know, because you have like every technical pattern that's showing that you want to go higher and it goes lower. So I'm like, maybe they're trying to buy with the best premium, with the less premium as possible. But then again, it's just one guy fun opinion. All I remember from, not to repeat what Pete said, but I remember when last year during the crazy bull run and Ethereum being very highly spoken of for a bunch of reasons, there was a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Vitalik Buterin. He had him come to Russia or something, I believe, and they were discussing it. And the article I was reading about was saying that one of the people that know best about Bitcoin is Vitalik Buterin. He's a junkie of Bitcoin, right? He was reading, understanding it. He has a background in finance and tech, so for him it was great. And from that, he created Ethereum, and he learned something from Bitcoin, and it was that Bitcoin was kind of bad-mouthed, and a lot of people were looking at Bitcoin as, oh, it's used for illegal, this, that, nah. But so he automatically said, I will go talk to government officials and talk to all these peoples to make them understand what Ethereum is trying to bring. It's not a tool for criminals for money laundering and all this bad press. He was trying to avoid it with Ethereum, and that's what he learned from what happened to Bitcoin. And I think his meeting went well with Vladimir Putin. Maybe prompt Putin to maybe start mining some Ethereum, looking into Ethereum, and that's just my opinion about it. But a lot of opinions. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, apparently he's a big advocate for blockchain. Vladimir Putin, that is.
Yeah.
So
I read that too.
I'm sure Vitalik had some influence over that. Go ahead, Chris.
No, they probably just bought up all the $80 Ethereum. It's
It's very, very possible. Very possible. We're coming up on an hour, guys. I think we should end it here. Good talk, man. For anyone who's brand new to our channels, just make sure you click the like button and click the subscribe button. So you can click the subscribe button, click the bell button next to the subscribe button, so you can be notified whenever we do upload new content to our channels. And if you guys have any questions or anything, just leave a comment below. Share this video with everyone, all your friends, and join the discussion. Eventually we'll go live and do live streams so we can engage with the audience. We're just lazy about figuring that stuff out. We're in the tech space and we're so not techie, but we'll figure it out. But other than that, guys, good talk. We'll do this next week, and we'll see the rest of you guys later on, and talk to you guys soon.